Welcome to Ninthware. The first step that you need to take in our system is to define an account for your banks, for your suppliers, hotels, your travel agency, and clients. To do so, we have to come to the Accounts tab and then click on Add. Afterwards, we're going to give them a name, whatever the name is. For example, in this scenario, we're going to name them A, Client A. IX code is for synchronization purposes. If you have any sort of idea what to put here, enter. If don't, just leave it empty. Then we say that this is for our main office, the city that they're in, and also what type of account it is. As you can see, we have different types of accounts listed over here, which for any purposes that you want to define an account for, you have to choose the correct one. In this scenario, for example, we're going to choose a travel agency. Now that we have defined the first step, the next step is to give them a credit. From right to left, I'm going to explain to you whatever these fields mean. Balance limit is the total amount of balance of credit that we're going to give to this client. That means, for example, we give them 20,000 dirhams of total balance credit. That means they have 20,000 credit to send us any sort of request. And these requests can be for visas, flights, hotels, and whatever services that is present in your account. The next one is the deadline limit. In the deadline limit, you define what amount of credit this client can have if their services has reached its deadline. For example, if it's for a visa, when you post it, now it's in the deadline. If it's a hotel, it has a cancellation deadline. When it reaches that deadline, it is now in the deadline phase. For example, we give this client 15,000 dirhams credit in the deadline section. That means for whatever services that they sent a request for, visas, hotels, flights, and now they're in their deadline, the total amount of bookings that they can have in the deadline is 15,000 dirhams. That means in this part, if they have amounts of bookings and they have reached their deadline and the total amount has passed 15,000, they cannot add or send any other request to their services. The next section is the checkpoint limit. In the checkpoint limit, we can define, for example, in this scenario, when our client is going to get invoiced. For example, we come over here, we say that, for example, in this section, as you can see, we have different sort of options that you can choose. We say post date 1. That means 1 day after they posted their visas, they're going to get invoiced. And the amount of requests that are in this state should not go over 10,000 dirhams. That means that if they have the total amount of 10,000 dirhams, in this scenario, which is 1 day after post date, they cannot add or send any other requests in the system. The next section is the warning limit. Another limitation that you can add into the system to keep more control over the credit balance that you have given to your client. To define what behavior this warning limit can have, we come to this section, warning point. We can choose any of these options that we want according to our agreement with the client. For example, in this scenario, I have clicked on approval. This means 1 day after the visas been approved, they can have bookings in these states and a total number of 5,000 dirhams. That means the total bookings that are in this state that they are approved and it has passed 1 day, they can have 5,000 dirhams of total credit. That means if they add another booking or send another request that reaches this state, and then now the limit is going to go higher than 5,000, the system will stop it. Now, the last section, utilize limit, means the amount of credit you want to give them to be able to download vouchers for their visas, hotels, flights, or whatever service that they booked. If it is set to 0, they have to pay you in cash or in your bank account, and you have to approve that you have received this amount in order to enable the download voucher for the specific booking that they have. Either it's a visa, hotel, or flight. If you come here and add some sort of credit, whatever amount that you want, that means they can download the visas up to this amount of dirhams that you have given them. And after that, like all the others, if they reach above that credit, the system will stop them from downloading any further vouchers. They have to pay you in cash or settle the previous ones. And if you come and set all of this to zero, all of these sections to zero, that means that they cannot do anything without payment. So they have to pay you for each of the services that they want to do in the system so that you could enable it for them. Otherwise, they cannot do anything into the system without any sort of payment to you. Now, if you have any sort of client, for example, this client that we're talking about, and they always pay you by check, not by bank account transfer, not by wires, they're going to send you a check. Then we're going to use this section, the TR checkpoint and TR warning. For example, right now it's on the request date. That means when this amount of check should be deducted from their balance. And also you can change when they're going to be deducted. For example, if you don't trust this, you can to trust this client, you can click on due date. That means whenever it is due, that a specific request that they've sent us, the check is going to get deducted from their balance. Also, warning. You can also set a specific timetable for the warning as well. That if we received a sort of request and now in the warning point we are past the due date, we're going to get a warning and the check is going to get deducted as well. And also you can set amount of dates, for example, 1 day after due date, 2 day after due date, or requested date, whatever. So in a scenario that they're going to send you any sort of checks and not send you money by, for example, by cash or by bank transfer, you can use this section. If not, you can just leave them zero and take no further action. The next step that you need to fill out is the address point. Are the address, that for example, you can choose whatever address that you want, the address of the client, of course, their phone number, their tax ID, and any sort of comments that you want to add, and also you can upload their logo over here. This section, you can add the related emails and phone numbers for any of these specific details that you might have from them. For example, for accounting and management, you add their email and phone number. Then they will receive notifications from the system through email. Also for hotel, visa, flights, and excursion department. As you can see, the system is very straightforward and there is no complications in regards of how many accounts that you can add into the system. The scenario that we went forward with is for the travel agency, that we're going to add a specific credit balances for them. But for example, if you are creating an account for your supplier or for your bank, that they're going to, for example, come to the system and check the bookings or whatever request has been sent from them, you don't need to add any sort of limits for them because they're not a client that they're going to use any sort of credit balance. But through here, you have to specify their type. For example, we can come to any of this, for example, revenue, and you can say that it's an interest income, it's a finance charge income, or it's an expense. For example, it's for a bank, or it's for legal and professional expenses, it's for maintenance, any sort of account that you want to add into the system. And for whatever reason that you want to create accounts for, always pay attention that if they're not going to use any sort of credit, then you have to leave all of these options in zero. You don't need to add any sort of credit limit. Credit limit in any of these sections should be defined if a client is going to be given a credit balance to make any bookings and requests. If you're going to have any further questions in regards on how to create an account or what type of account you need to create for your client, for your bank, for your supplier, for your hotel, please be in contact with us.